You don't know how sweet I am. You don't know how sweet I am. I am what I am, and I am sweet. You don't know how sweet I am.
Yo, check this. I might not be what you want me to be, so you might not see what you want to see. But if you got a minute, listen to what I gotta say, cause it's a brand new year and it's a brand new day. See, there's a gap between my culture and the life that I lead, so some will call me an apple, and some a bad seed. They have no idea how my heart will bleed. Their words and attitudes are things I just don't need.
You don't know how sweet I am. I am what I am, and I am sweet.
You see, I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Those ones spreading racism, they're just fucking dumb. Now, if you're looking at my life and you say I've assimilated, to simplify things just a little more complicated. See, I'm a modern day native with a modern day life. I have modern day problems and modern day strife. Now I hear other natives, they talk about the past, and will I do the same? Fuck that. See, I've got no time to dwell on what's already done. I've got too many things that I want to do. And they don't include knives, and they don't include guns. I'm talking about knowledge and sharing it too. See, my people need to learn how to cohabitate, get rid of the anger, and get rid of the hate. We gotta stop for a minute and learn to educate. And you'll see in the end, we all have to communicate. I know there'll be a time to make a stand and a time to fight, but if you do that, make sure the cause is right. Because if the cause is right and the cause is just, greater numbers of people will be backing you up. History has repeatedly shown to us all that united we stand and divided we fall. They were talking about natives and natives alone, because this is a big world and this world is our home. Now I've seen some beautiful people and ugly ones too, and there's no single color that comes into view. So the message I'm sending, it's not all that long. This is, I want the human race to be stronger than strong. I said I just want the human race to be stronger than strong.
We all have to be strong.
Done it. Word.
We all have to be strong. Peace.
Siguli swagwag, gala hindi niyo gets, wagi sli wagi ni wakitoloda, oni dag ngwehiwenege, ani bojo dante okinapi, how. And for those of you who have no clue what I said, or for those of you who are new, I always introduce myself in my original language. So I said Siguli swagwag, or hello everyone. Gala hindi is my name. It translates to clouds passing over in the colonial language, and I'm a member of the people of the Standing Stone First Nations of the Thames here on Turtle Island, and I am Bear Clan. So I am on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, Delaware, Huron, and Anishinaabe nations on the northern part of Turtle Island that's been relabeled Canada. And within the confines of that definition, I'm in a small area called southwestern Ontario. So today is in Canada what we call National Truth and Reconciliation Day. Um, that actually only got named that or recognized as that last year. So last year was our first Truth and Reconciliation Day. But today has been known as Orange Shirt Day since 2013. And on Shirt Day, um, as you will learn through today, there will be, I'm sure, many people streaming content related to today, and particularly Indigenous people, I'm sure. Um, Streams will, if not have streams dedicated to the day, will certainly have segments of their streams where this is brought up and discussed. And part of I had mentioned before on previous streams my new profile icon just under the window there, the orange circle is based on what we call the survivor's flag. And the survivor's flag right now is currently raised at the Parliament Hill here in Canada, and it will be for I think they said till 2014 or 2024. 2014. I'm showing my age. Um, my memory's going. So today I wanted to share some content related to today. Now, there in 20, 2009, there was a commission put together called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and it was put together and started by the then Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Their goal was to create a report and a list of recommendations for the government that would allow them to take steps to rebuild relations with the indigenous nations across Turtle Island. They were given 5 years to do so. They took about six, to be quite honest, and the final report from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was handed off to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in 2015. And so there is access to the Truth and Reconciliation report as well as the 94 calls to action, which you can read on the links in that page on the TRC website. And as well, in that link, of course, there's also the report for the missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada as well, which is kind of a separate issue and a whole other stream. But it's there, and so I always want to have those links available for anybody who's interested in educating themselves more on some of the primary issues that are affecting the original people of Turtle Island. So, Foster was asking about that song at the beginning. That song, I open every stream up with that song, and it's called Strong. And it was based on a poem that I wrote, and the voice of the child in that poem is Fab Feline, and so you can imagine how old that track is now when you consider how old he is now. Um, but part of the reason I used his voice was um, at the time um, he was in um, what are they called, like a nursery school or something, and daycare. And I used to pick him up after work and bring him home on the bus. And one day I brought him home on the bus. I asked him how his day went, and he said, "Oh, it was all right, except this kid at school pushed me." And I said, "Well, why did the kid push you?" And he said, "Because he don't know how sweet I am." And I thought that is such uh, an awesome way of looking at things, because he could have said anything like the kid's a bully, the kid's a jerk, the kid's this or the kid's that, or, you know, but instead he said, the kid doesn't know how sweet I am. And it was a way of understanding that we're all different. And this is the thing about the words of children, right? Because they're innocent. They haven't been exposed to um, our lives yet. And so, when we say that children are born racist, they're not. They're born like blank canvases. that we create an art piece out of. And I will say I'm very proud of my son because he has grown into a very talented musician. He has uh, grown into a person who is accepting of all other people, regardless of their background or their race or their gender or their sexuality. Um, it's he's open to it all, and he's open to learning. And and just by the fact that I heard him say that when he was, you know, 4 years old, um, not ready to attack somebody for their actions, but rather accept them for who they are and understand there's a reason behind everything that gets done and a reason behind everything that we do. And in this case, this kid just didn't know how sweet he was. And and that was a very positive way of looking at it because it was almost like once this kid gets to know me, he won't do that again because he'll know how sweet I am. And I think that there's no better lessons than the lessons that we get from children. And I love the fact that came from him. So as a result, I had to use his voice in that song. And that song really is kind of a reflection of today as well. I mean, Strong is about accepting um, ourselves because we are, particularly what we call urban indigenous people, uh, people who haven't lived, weren't raised in all their lives on the reservation, um, are kind of stuck between two worlds. We have we have our indigenous culture, which oftentimes shuns us because we are not part of, we haven't been exposed to the language and the traditions and the ceremony as much as the people who have lived on reserve, primarily because it was illegal for us to do that. Because, for until 1978, we weren't permitted to speak our language in public, or you could be arrested and you could be charged for crimes. We weren't allowed to practice our ceremony in public. Um, that has changed. And so when we, prior to that, what we had to do is practice those ceremonies and speak that language behind closed doors. And that's the only way that we were able to maintain it. And indigenous people have proven to be very resilient over the years. And we were able to have people, knowledge keepers, um, retain our ceremonies and our language and our traditions, and teach them to generations to come. And now that we can celebrate that, then we actually share it and with other people. So part of the healing process with residential schools in our history is the reclaiming of our language and the reclaiming of our culture and the reclaiming of everything that has been taken away from us and bringing it back. So to see the youth learn our language and speak it is a beautiful thing. When I hear, say, Emma Stevens sing Blackbird in the Mi'kmaq language, or I hear, Tanya Tagaq throat sing in a traditional way through her music, all of this is just such an honor and beautiful thing that I can't help but want to share that. So today's was a little bit of a goof up on my behalf because I ended up getting scheduled to work today. So what my process or agenda will be today is I'm going to first of all share a couple of things here this morning. Um, I will have to. I will only be able to be here for a couple of hours, and then I'm going to have to go to work. Um, I'm going to work, and then after work, tonight I'm going to come back and I'm going to share some more information or some more content. So, the National Truth and Reconciliation Commission has been putting on a list of events throughout the week. And Thirsty Mosquito, Yonko for the resub, 10 months now. I appreciate that. And Mrs. KR Acoustic, welcome in. And Yonko. For those of you who don't know, KR Acoustic is on that list of peaceful warriors. And the peaceful warriors are um, people who have taken on the challenge of doing a rendition or a musical rendition of a poem that I wrote called The Peaceful Warrior. And in fact, I have just been given a brand new version of that song, which was done by a couple that call themselves the Waxbirds. And um, I might just play that through the stream. It's never been played yet. In fact, they didn't do it on their stream either. They actually recorded it offline and then sent me the video clip. So I think that that's exciting. It's an interesting take on the song, and I like it. And so I'm kind of excited about sharing that as well at some point. And I'm just trying to determine when's the right time to share it. So I will see how it goes. I might share it today, but we'll hold off on that for now. So today, what I'm going to do, there's again a couple of things I wanted to share. One of them, some of it is going to be stuff from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's week of events. Tonight is going to be, I'm going to share a concert. It's not a long concert, but there's a concert that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission hosted um, yesterday, which I've gotten I was, they have a portal that you can sign into, so I can sign into it and I'll play that from their portal. And it's got a number of different artists who performed, like Shawnee Kish and I can't remember now the list of other performers, but there's a list of performers that will be on. So what I want to do today is I'm going to show a short documentary called "We Know the Truth Stories." Now, this particular clip was created, and it's I think about 45 minutes long or so, talking about it. This was created and filmed in September of last year after the after we started exposing all of these unmarked burial sites. So May 27th was the first one that was exposed, which was Kamloops. Um, and that's where they found 215 unmarked burials of children out of the Kamloops Indian School on that property, even of the school. And so, hence the reason that you will see uh, I don't know if I have it on this one. Yeah, I do. Oftentimes, you'll see the number 215 reflected in orange because that's kind of like that's what triggered the the history to be really exposed and put into to such a light that people couldn't ignore it anymore. And that's part of I think what really is made this last couple of years so significant for us is the fact that now our history cannot be denied, because this is the whole reason we don't call these burial sites discoveries, because they're not discovered. They've always been there, and we've always known they were there, and we've told people about these sites. And oftentimes we were told that we were lying or we were making up stories or it's just not true. Everything under the sun could be said to sweep this all under the carpet and try to hide the history, because Canada has always had this um, image of being multicultural, welcoming country who's always sorry. I mean, you listen to any comedian who jokes about Canada, the first thing I was going, oh, let me talk in a Canadian accent. Uh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm, and that's kind of the joke, right? Is that that's the image that Canada's had, and it's had such an awesome PR system structure that has fooled people all across the world for from the beginning of time. And so, Thirsty Mosquito, again, Yanko, for the resub. I appreciate you and I hug you back. And thank you so much for your support. I am grateful, and I will hopefully see you again. Well, I will see you again. It's just a matter of when. But thank you again so much for being here. So this first clip again, I will share. We'll give a little bit of a history. It's kind of like uh, the base, and then we can kind of build on that. So the other thing after this I will share is last night um, there were two uh, land defenders and water protectors uh, named who are siblings. Logan Stats, who's a Canadian Mohawk singer songwriter, and Roman Rue. Welcome in, Yanko, for being here. Nice to see you, my friend. So Logan Stats and his sister Layla Black. So Logan is a singer. Layla is a filmmaker. They are both land protectors and water defenders, and I call them land protectors and water defenders. Some people will call them activists. Now, I suppose under the umbrella of the definition of activists, you could potentially call them that. They are, see, activists are trying to make a movement for change. And what Logan and Layla and people like them are trying to do is not so much to change things, but to bring back some of the old traditions and some of the old teachings and some of the uh, roots of getting back to where we were before the changes. And so they want to defend the water so that it remains clean because we are poisoning it to a point where um, we can't drink it. I mean, it's particularly on indigenous communities. My community of Onondaga is only 30 minutes outside of a major city. Yet, for the last almost 10 years now, we've been under a boiling water advisory, which means we can't drink the water out of the taps. We are 30 minutes away from a city, and we can't drink the water in our own taps. So something is wrong with that in Canada. Um, now you can go. Okay. And yeah, go for the gift sub to Roman Rue, Thirsty Mosquito. I appreciate that. So how does a community in a rich, resourceful country like Canada not have clean drinking water in their community that's within a short 30-minute drive from a major city? So I can understand. Well, I say I can understand. I'm being forgiving, um, but remote communities up north, remote communities where the infrastructure is not there, don't have clean drinking water, and it's going to take time and money to build that infrastructure to get clean drinking water to these communities. The truth be told, these communities had clean drinking water before colonialism happened. So before corporate greed happened. So when we think of today, particularly in Canada, because it's a national day, is that this is not a day off of work. And if going to the mall means that you're seeing crowds of people supporting capitalism that was brought here to Turtle Island through ongoing colonialism, then that's not what this day is intended to be. This day is intended to be an opportunity for us to reflect on the history of this country, to consider our roles, each of our roles in that history, and each of our roles in changing that history for the future. So we have that opportunity now to start changing the history, because history is not the past, but history is what we're making today for the future. So that's what we've got to keep in mind. So with that said, let me get started with the first short documentary here, and I'm going to get my face off the screen so that you can see this, and then we'll chit chat more after this.
The residential schools were specifically built to take the Indian out of us.
We were strapped and beaten. You could scream and scream. There was no one there to come to your help.
I know that the government is saying, okay, all you Indians, there's your chance to reconcile. And I say to them, no, we're waiting for you.
So many survivors have been gracious enough to share their often painful residential school experiences with Canadians, so Canadians can learn the true history. There are many Indigenous people who believe Canadians aren't living up to the promise of reconciliation, the act of making up for the dark history of residential schools. But there are many Indigenous people who haven't been waiting for it, moving forward and creating change on their own terms. I'm Stephanie Cram. I'm Métis with family ties to Lac St. Anne and Alberta. The stories we'll share with you over the next hour will inform and hopefully inspire Canadians to take action. We'll introduce you to Indigenous people who have found what was stolen from them and made it theirs again. They're flipping the conversation on reconciliation to relearn, retell, and reclaim their language, history, and culture, and to reconnect with their families. So let's start at the former Portage La Prairie Residential School here in Manitoba. It opened in 1914. First Nation children were forced to attend here, a world away from their families. Elder Ernie Daniels was one of them.
So these trees are over 120 years old.
He's a former chief of Long Plain First Nation and a man who's dedicated his life to correcting history. Ernie walks the halls of his former residential school regularly, but what he won't do is share the more painful memories of his own experience. Decades after, he still hasn't spoken about it to his own children, but he shares this with us.
I come from a community called Long Plain. We had a loving family. We had parents, we had grandparents, we had extended family, we had cousins and community people, you know, and all the things that any human being wanted was there for us. And all of a sudden you get removed, sometimes by force, by the RCMP or by an Indian agent, out of our family environment. And they brought us here. One time there was a doorknob. It had a peephole for a key. I remember Saturdays I used to sit there, peep through that hole, see if my parents were here to come visit me. Many times that door opened and I got black eyes because of the doorknob hitting me.
Ernie remembers some children who couldn't wait for their parents and took matters into their own hands, running away, trying to find home. Some never made it back to their families or to the school. Some children just disappeared. Jorge Barrera brings us that story from Kamloops.
It brings me back to a time in my life, my time when I lived in peace and comfort and safety, and I felt protected by my family. And, excuse me, that was probably the safest time in my life.
Barbara McNabb Larson still remembers the day it changed.
And I remember when they came to get us from here. The first year we went in a livestock truck.
And the next year?
They came out with an army truck. And they drove us back to the school in these trucks, and they unloaded us like we were just little animals.
She is one of thousands forced through the doors for nearly 80 years of Kamloops Residential School.
The first things they did was they took us down to our cleansing room, where they cut off our hair. Then they deloused us. Then they scrubbed us down with disinfectant like we were diseased animals. Sorry.
The name of the institution is now known worldwide. Students always suspected children were buried here, and now they are reliving the horror.
For 3 days, I went into a depression so deep. And a grief that I never knew I had.
No cross or stone, and scarce information to mark who lies buried here. Catholic Order Sisters of St. Anne's taught at the school. At Kamloops Residential School, the threat of death hung in the air.
You better behave. Don't get out of line, because there's the graveyard. And there's also the river. Those were warnings that were given to us as little tiny children, 5, 6 years old.
Death was real here. We do know how some of these children died. Records from the 1930s were shared with us.
I wanted to go home, and I was weeping. I remember there's a train whistle. The trains would go by Kamloops, and I'd hear the whistle. Woo. And it became one of my triggers later on after I left a residential school. You know, I'll tell you the truth. That years of residential school was like a blur to me. Suicide, I remember this young man or young boy hung himself in the bathroom. Still today they remember that. They still get nightmares about it. And about the runaways and people jumping trains, getting killed jumping a train, freezing outside, running away in the wintertime.
Florence Morgan, whose age is not noted, died from a viral infection. The Indian agent reported her body was returned home by truck. Some never made it home. The girl's name was Mary Francois, age not noted, died in hospital from a blood clot in her brain. Her father, chief of the Adams Lake Band, who only saw her after death, wrote a letter requesting, when a child of the school is taken sick and requires hospital attention, that the parent be notified at once. This oral history fills a gap between the still incomplete record of the residential school era. Many records were pulped by the federal government, including from Kamloops. Funeral records destroyed, Indian agent reports destroyed, student lists destroyed.
Those records were not highly valued in terms of being preserved from the recycling process that went on.
John Malloy, an author and historian who worked for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
A lot of that information was simply lost.
He said Indian Affairs officials sometimes failed to record information.
We report abuse of these children to you when you don't do anything about it, and therefore we're not going to be bothered reporting to you any longer.
The same lack of care accompanied the death of children.
Children died, children were buried, parents were not necessarily told that they had died. Children were buried in unmarked graves, adjacent to the schools oftentimes.
Death a part of life in residential schools. But the one history that can never be hidden is the one carried by those who came home.
I call upon all our people across our Turtle Island, all of our First Nations. It doesn't matter whether you're a Mohawk or a Cree or a Dene or a Shuswap or a Gitxagan. We're all one people. We're one nation. And it is our cultural and traditional strength, I believe, that has allowed us to carry on and to live.
Carrying on means getting survivors to share their experiences with family. Leonard Monkman with CBC Indigenous spoke to a group about how it brought them closer together.
My name is Deborah Wild and I'm a thriver.
I am a survivor.
I'm a thriver, an achiever, and successful.
Today, it means that I'm free from the past.
These thrivers now are saying, we're taking back what was taken from us. It's important that we reclaim our culture in whatever way it is, through drum making, rattle making, traditional medicine.
Initially I was told that I was supposed to take you out on a medicinal walk up there.
Took a long time. It actually took my group to open me up, and I think we started 2013. And that was the first time I talked about the past and what happened to me. My parents died without knowing what was wrong with me.
And they've shared all what's happened to them. And now they say that they want to heal. Now we're in a time of healing now. And they're saying that they want to know more about who they are. They want to know their culture.
When I connected with my culture, I call it my medicine now because it taught me a lot about myself. I learned to love myself.
I survived, and not only me, but my whole family. And I'm really grateful to be moving forward and showing younger people, younger generation, that we can do it.
We're encouraging a survivor and at least one family member. They can bring more than one, but we're wanting to incorporate the family.
Despite all the trauma I've gone through, you can overcome anything, as long as you work hard within yourself. Like, you really have to go deep down and, just connect with our culture and practice the 7 teachings, love, kindness, because we didn't know anything about love when we were in residential school.
Support is available for anyone affected by the residential school system. The Indian Residential School Crisis Line provides 24-hour emotional and crisis referral services. Call 1-866-925-4419.
Most Canadians are familiar with the whitewashed history of residential schools. A step towards reconciliation is retelling that history truthfully.
My sister and I, we walked up the stairs.
You won't find Ernie's story in history books. His first day here is still a painful memory.
1956, September 1956. We came here and I don't know what this place was. And I thought it was in my little mind, I thought it was a prison, a jail, which in the end is the same thing. But you were brought alone here, so you didn't know what's happening. This is where being an Indigenous person, a child, that's where it stopped, right here, at this moment. Crossed the door closes, dehumanization started. The loss of our culture, our language, our role in the community stopped right here.
These inhumane acts have sparked a reckoning. It's led to monuments rooted in Canada's colonial history to be targeted for vandalism and even destruction. In Winnipeg, a statue of Queen Victoria was toppled and her head thrown into the Red River. Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, and Egerton Ryerson, an educator and minister, didn't escape blame either. Their statues were meant to highlight their contributions to Canada. But many say we need to retell that history because their presence ignores their role as the architects of a genocide. Simon Nakanishi was a witness to history being rewritten in Montreal.
Canada's first Prime Minister pulled from his lofty perch above Place du Canada. It happened at the end of a demonstration calling for the city to defund the police. On Twitter, Montreal's Mayor Valérie Plante strongly condemned the vandalism. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney said, "This vandalism of our history and heroes must stop." Montreal police are investigating. This isn't the first time Macdonald's statue has been targeted or even decapitated. In 1992, unknown vandals cut off its head, reportedly to mark the anniversary of the hanging of Métis leader Louis Riel.
It speaks volumes to how people are feeling.
Jessica Quijano spoke at yesterday's demonstration. She says the statue toppling came as a surprise, even to organizers, but she's not sad to see it fall.
It's glorifying a figure that has a legacy of genocide, and I think that it's wrong to not teach that legacy, and I think there could have been many opportunities for government to acknowledge the damage and the pain and the trauma that John A. Macdonald has done.
A crane lifted the headless bronze from the ground and trucked it away. The city will consult with heritage experts about what happens next.
That statue was not returned to its spot in Montreal. But these problematic figures have also had their names on important institutions. Before one of Canada's most recognizable universities made the decision to change its name, Farr Morelli brought this story of the objection to Egerton Ryerson.
Sam Howden lays flowers at the foot of the defaced statue of Egerton Ryerson, where a collection of children's shoes is growing.
There's tobacco, there's sweetgrass, there's flowers, there's toys. In an effort to come together over this collective grief, and especially over the collective grief of Egerton Ryerson being the architect of the residential school system.
Howden, who is Métis, is one of the student organizers of the group University X, pushing for the Ryerson name to be removed from the school and for this statue to be taken down.
It's not just the statue itself, it's the symbolism of the person who embodies that statue and the name of that person and their history, which has been essentially the systemic violence of putting Black and Indigenous folks in segregated schooling.
It's not the first time this statue has been defaced. Last summer, members of Black Lives Matter, citing Ryerson's role in segregated schools, also called for the statue's removal.
We've been consulting for 20 years about the Egerton Ryerson statue and about the Egerton Ryerson name.
Some Indigenous faculty argue leaving the statue up is an act of defiance.
The coming down of that statue will mean so much.
The university announced the Ryerson name would be removed from 2 student publications, but organizers of this memorial want more. They say they'll continue to call for more shoes until their calls are answered.
The students who would have come through this doorway spoke a variety of languages: Ojibwe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dene, and Dakota, but they were forbidden from speaking them. Ernie remembers the consequences were severe.
If you were bad, if you wanted to be isolated, this is the room. It's a storage area now.
What would happen in this room?
Oh, you're punished, strapped, speaking a language, running away, being caught, behavior. Behavior did not reflect a bad person, but that behavior was wanting to go home and be with their parents.
Ernie managed to keep his traditional language, But for some, it was too painful to hold on to.
Karen Pauls tells us of one survivor who is helping her community relearn their language.
This is more than just a fishing trip. These young men are reclaiming their Ojibwe language. The fish will be part of the evening feast, the end of a long day in an Ojibwe language immersion camp. Pat Ningwans is one of the elders teaching this intermediate group with her 21-year-old grandson, Andeg Muldrew.
They caught 4 pike.
And what's the word for pike?
Pike.
The fact that these two are here in this place is so fitting, a story that has come full circle. This building is part of Algoma University, the former site of the Shingwauk Indian Residential School.
We're now in the girls' side, I guess.
Of the old residential school.
Pat was here when she was 13 years old.
Right about here was probably my bed, right here.
Now she's back as a language teacher, her office just meters away from where her bed was in the senior girls' dorm.
This is where I formed my dreams. It's very important for me right now to be teaching my language here at Algoma University, Shingwauk, with my grandchild.
Even that is significant. For reasons she still can't understand, Pat was unable to teach her son Ojibwe.
I could never do it. The words would get stuck. And I was afraid that would happen with my grandson too.
So Andeg started attending her language courses. He picked up grammar, vocabulary, and a sense of identity.
Learning the language is definitely, maybe more confident in who I am, at least. Knowing where I come from. Building this community and connection that a lot of people have, lost.
At the camp outside, Quinn Miyawasage and Levi Laundry are building community and the fire they'll use to smoke the fish.
I find when you are doing actions, you're constantly telling yourself what you're doing. You conjugate the verb, the action, right? So I can say like he or she is making kindling, or I can say I am making kindling. This is a language that
For him, language is also tied to identity.
Especially at a place like this, a former institution of an Indian residential school, it's a place where the language was attempted to be eradicated. We're actually bringing it back.
While they prepare and tend the fire, Pat and Andeg have taken some of the other students grocery shopping. Because the language has to work in the real world, not just in traditional settings.
What's the Ojibwe word for peanut butter?
Although some things just don't have an Ojibwe word.
Some things, you can kind of create a name for, but with a peach, there's not really. You just say peach, essentially.
What we're doing here, it's so urgent because people my age, we're dying. The language is dying with us. When I'm not here anymore, he will take up the work. His child will take up the work.
Back at the traditional open-air lodge, the feast has begun.
Good job, ladies. You guys rocked this fish.
Andeg knows his grandmother has given him a big responsibility, but he's up for the challenge. He knows what's at stake.
Since so many of these communities, have been still struggling with these different problems, people following different ways, I guess, that maybe can be healed by the language.
Feeding bodies and healing souls.
Having a connection through language is good medicine, but so is laughter. This story from CBC Indigenous shows us how it's helping kids stay rooted in Anishinaabemowin.
My name is Donis Kennedy, and this is the Boogit game. We came up with what I thought was like the funniest verb in Ojibwe, is the Boogite. He or she farts. Who farted? We want to teach our kids how to speak Ojibwe. We want them to learn more than colors and numbers. For me, the game really puts language learning into a really fun context. So if you learn 100 ways to talk about farting, you'll know 100 different ways to talk about singing, sitting, standing, eating, sleeping. But first you have to learn the bases. So you can start as simple as neen, geen, ween, and shigo, 4 words, and you can play a game.
It's important for me to learn Ojibwe because I can talk with my elders that don't know English, and I can learn all about my culture.
It's good for kids, and kids like it, but honestly, adults learn really well from it too.
Nina win. Quinoa. Nina win. Oh, Nina win. I got it. Yeah.
It's the year of Indigenous languages, and we want everybody to have a turn. Do you guys want to play again? Yeah.
Support is available for anyone affected by the residential school system. The Indian Residential School Crisis Line provides 24-hour emotional and crisis referral services. Call 1-866-925-4419.
This is We Know the Truth, stories to inspire reconciliation. I'm Stephanie Cram. The goal of residential schools was to kill the Indian in the child. That meant destroying any connection to culture. Back here on Long Plain territory, Ernie remembers having to grow up without his family to teach him about the customs of his people.
I remember my grandfather came here, proud of him being an Anishinaabe. He had braids. His parents put braids on him. Got over here, took the hair, cut it right off. So he looked like a little, not an Indigenous style.
The act of cutting off Ernie's grandfather's hair is symbolic of the loss of culture. For some, that meant not learning how to hunt or make shelter. But this story out of Alberta shows us how youth are teaming up with elders to reclaim those skills.
Cultural education, that's very important to our people.
See, what you do is...
We had some elders come in and speak with the youth about hunting and like some of the traditional goodies, I guess.
Push it down. Here. I'm the teacher, you're the learner. Here. Okay. As a Native person, an Indian person, you gotta really learn.
The youth also went fishing. We did archery in that first week. Right now we're in week 2 where we're doing the smokehouse building teachings. So for that one, we got the youth to go out and cut their own lumber for their smokehouses.
I always tell my grandchildren, come on, one day we're gonna go back to this. Where are you guys gonna be? How are you guys gonna do it? I always tell them that. How are you guys gonna build a fire? How are you guys gonna kill? You know, to make your dry meat. I always tell them that.
Families do hunt and they do practice in culture, but not everybody has that opportunity. This camp is kind of like an opportunity for those who do have that support and those who do not have the support to support each other and learn together.
See, and this one has to come off too because we don't want the dry meat to get stuck on there.
Because everything that's traditional has been passed down, and that's for a reason, because throughout history, I think culture and traditions is what makes our people unique. And then all these teachings that get passed down, it all leads to wellness, right? Like mental wellness and to embrace identity and all that. It makes us who we are as Stoney people. To go out and hunt in their ancestral lands, like with confidence, and to be proud of who they are as much as our ancestors were. Like to have that same connection through that belief in who they are and their identity. That would be like a good staple that we're going toward the right direction.
Going in the right direction also means drawing from cultural practices that were once banned. Brian Knockwood from Sipekne'katik First Nation is creating artwork that draws from his ancestors.
I'm a drum maker. I can feel your spirit here with me. We travel around all over the Maritimes, all over Wabanagi territory, making drums. I don't know, I'll never be lonely. I've been making drums probably for about 20 years, but I've been doing hand drum making workshops for about the last 12 years. I didn't really know what a drum was until I was 16 years old. We didn't have this. We didn't have any of this when I was young. Like I said, we're just so close to the residential school. We were affected so big time from our language, our culture, our traditions. When I first started singing in 1991, I was introduced to the drum by a gentleman from Medibanagiek. And then over the years, I learned from many different teachers. Word got out probably about 8 years ago that, hey, there's these guys from Indian Brook that can doing hand drum making workshops. And probably over the last, I say even 5 years, we've probably done about 120 workshops. Being able to pass on the knowledge and the tradition to our kids, seeing the smiles on their faces, that's the biggest thing. It's like they're so happy. If they can go on to pass these teachings on to their grandchildren, that would mean so much more. When you make a drum, you always have to keep in mind, like the deer gave up its life. It gave up its life for a purpose. We're always taught to use every part of the animal that we can, that don't let anything go to waste. And so we always have to keep in mind the spirit of the animal when they're making a drum. Like that one simple teaching that I learned: if you take care of the drum will take care of you. That's the number one teaching right there. I'm so grateful for the drum. I can honestly say probably about 90 to 95% of my friendships come from that drum, because of that drum.
Support is available for anyone affected by the residential school system. The Indian Residential School Crisis Line provides 24-hour emotional and crisis referral services. Call 1-866-925-4419.
We've introduced you to people who have reconnected with family, retold history, and reclaimed their language and culture. We're now going to take a look at how the purpose of this place has been reestablished by Ernie and his community. Behind the school, on the walls of this barn, are names from the past, scratched into old wood, and words of hope, counting 1 week and 6 days to go home. Despite the horrors that happened on this property, for Ernie, there's a reason to preserve it.
There's kids still here, their spirits are right here. They haven't gone home and they're still here. If you believe in paranormal, they're here. People see them, people feel them, people hear them. But all say, don't try and get rid of them. This is their home. You include them, you ask permission from them whether we can be here. This is their territory, this is their home.
While some buildings remain standing, others have disappeared. In Fort Providence, Northwest Territories, a community is using that space to honor those who are still in their memories. Here's Juanita Taylor.
Smell the wood fire, make tea, and very peaceful.
Inside her teepee is where Kathy Pope finds solace. It's what she was seeking in 2018 when she traveled over 600 kilometers to honor people buried in an unmarked grave.
It was something I'll never forget.
The traditional Dene ceremony left a lasting impression on Pope. Many of the dead were residential school students. 3 were her relatives.
I was very happy and very sad, all so mixed emotions, so very much.
The graves are here in Fort Providence, near the site of the Sacred Heart Residential School. It operated between 1867 and 1960. Today, this monument memorializes around 300 people buried here, including 161 children, brought to the school from up and down the Mackenzie River Valley.
A sacred area for our family, for our community here in Fort Providence.
Albert Lafferty says people in Fort Providence talked about the unmarked graves for years. His Dene ancestors are buried here too. In the early 90s, Lafferty led a push to ensure the old burial ground would never be developed. They brought in ground-penetrating equipment to search for remains.
All of our ancestors and all of the children who are buried here, so it's a very special and sacred place for us.
Lafferty worked with the Roman Catholic Diocese of Mackenzie, Fort Smith, and Yellowknife to find out who they were. And his research also confirmed what the community had already feared, that in 1948, the church plowed over the burial ground, but not before relocating 8 missionaries to the community's current cemetery. Lafferty says then the church turned the site into a potato field.
Yes, it is unsettling as to why that was necessary, but we don't have the precise answers for that. From Fort Good Hope, when I was 12 years old.
In 1994, the efforts of Lafferty and others paid off, and a monument was erected to honor the people buried here.
And getting the names and the monument project itself offers some sense of closure. There's still a lot more work to be done for survivors and descendants.
Sam Gargan is a former Grand Chief of the Dehcho First Nations. He also went to residential school.
I spent just about one winter with my parents. But as soon as the church found out where I was, they came to where I was and they grabbed me with the RCMP.
Gargan says the monument is only a start.
In order for our people of my generation and even our children's generation to heal and that process to begin, you have to hear an apology from the church and from the RCMP.
But for Kathy Pope, the monument has been an important part of her healing journey.
I never ever used that word closure, so, it gave me peace of mind.
Pope plans to make the trip back to Fort Providence.
So they feel they're not forgotten.
This land was about 80 acres.
This property's reimagining started in the 1970s. Ernie, as chief of Long Plain, took on the federal government to make this land theirs. Not only have they created a new community of homes, but the Manitoba First Nations Police Service is headquartered inside that building. And so is the National Indigenous Residential School Museum of Canada. It's a living testament to what Ernie and so many others were forced to endure. a replication of the uniform the girls would wear, and a wig to show how their hair was cut, and straps used for punishment. The older the child, the larger the strap.
A lot of Indigenous people suffered like we did worldwide. I wanted to be a center for Indigenous people, all Indigenous people in the world in years to come. That's the next step after the museum.
Because there were many others who were hurt in this era, like the day scholars. These children faced the same physical, mental, and sexual abuse, but because they went home at the end of the day, they were excluded from the federal apology and received no compensation. We also need to acknowledge the Métis, Inuit, and First Nations children who had to attend day school. In Edmonton, one act of reconciliation is taking shape in the form of replacements with new Indigenous names.
Tanse, I'm Chief Billy Morin from Muskegse Enoch Cree Nation, and we are standing in CP Winiwak. CP Inuak. Ward CP Winiwak is in southwest Edmonton, and it borders the Enoch Cree Nation in the west of Edmonton. CP Inuak literally means CP is river, Inuak is people, Nehiyaw people, or Indigenous people, so it literally translates to River Cree people. CP Winiwak was chosen to honor the relationship between the city of Edmonton and its biggest, closest First Nations neighbor, which is the Enoch Cree Nation. The real traditional name of Enoch is Muskegse, land of medicines. So this is the heart of where the people lived. This was a trading post. This was where they got their food, they got their medicines. And where we're standing is actually former reserve land taken away from us in 1908. Our first chief is buried here according to some records, and also some survivors of residential schools in Charles Camsell. I really love how the story is being embraced of these ward names. Language is a huge part of reconciliation in Canada, and it means so much to us that's living up to the original treaty relationship that our languages are being embraced, because it's going to make us that much stronger as a nation when our languages and our words are used. It's reconciling action to use these words and create the treaty relationship.
As our journey comes to an end, you might be wondering, what can I do? The National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation, Stephanie Scott, sees the path forward.
I think Canadians can start to learn more about what happened in Canada, Canada's true history. They can speak with elders, knowledge keepers, survivors. They can watch Indigenous films and documentaries. They can check out nctr.ca and take a look at the hundreds of reports and resources that we have online. And really, reach out to communities in your area and try to break bread, start a relationship, grow together, and that's truly how we can reconcile as Canadians.
Indigenous people can't do all the work. It's the responsibility of all Canadians to move forward in a good way, to reconcile for the scars that remain today. Read, learn, listen to survivors like Ernie.
But we know the truth. We lived it. Nobody can never deny us that. We're trying our best to educate our young people to carry on. It doesn't matter if I'm dead or alive. They'll carry on the truth. They know what happened.
Tagoli Swagwag, and welcome in, Sezerman. Yonko for being here. Howdy doody. So I hope that you found that informative. Here's the thing I think is happening right now, ever since the May of 2021, is that with the exposure of the unmarked burial sites, particularly what triggered this all was the one in Kamloops, the 215 that were exposed in May of 2027 or 2021, is that we are now seeing more and more documentaries come out, some of them about specific schools, and some of them just, you know, an overview of the actual survivors, and as well, of course, the ones who didn't survive. Um, and that's the thing, right? Residential school students are uh, they're the only institutions in the world, or the only schools in the world um, where students are called survivors, not graduates, because they didn't graduate, they survived it, and they learned how to be resilient and how to survive, but it was a high cost, and thousands. Um, I mean, right now I think we're at about 10,000 children so far, that have been confirmed, have died in residential schools, and we still haven't even gotten to even a quarter of the schools yet. So you know that that number is going to go so much higher, once all of the grounds are searched and all of the sites are found. And even if we do get all of the sites found and we count all of the burials on all of those sites, we are still not going to have the true number of children that died due to residential schools, because there are children who ran away from those schools, children who died trying to find their way home. Um, if you ever get a chance to watch The Secret Path, The Secret Path is the story of a young boy named Cheney Wenjack, who ran away from a residential school to try to get home, and in the middle of winter. And along the way home, he froze to death alongside a railway. Gord Downey, who is the singer of a Canadian band called Tragically Hip, um, he got cancer, and was getting very ill, but decided before he knew he was going to pass, but he wanted to do something to leave a legacy behind. And so he teamed up with an illustrator, and he told the story of Cheney Wenjack. He created illustrated book, an animated film, and an album of songs, all um, focused on the story of Cheney Wenjack. And that film is called The Secret Path, and it should be available. If it's not on CBC, there is a version of it that's on YouTube. So just look up The Secret Path, um, and I'm sure you'll find it. I've shared it on stream before, as along with the discussion with the director and the people who are behind the story, or the project. So that's a great documentary to or a great film. I mean, it is kind of a documentary, but it's also it's a story, a true story of a child survivor, or I'm sorry, one that didn't survive residential schools, named Cheney Wenjack. In fact, there's now a something called the the Gord Downey Cheney Wenjack Foundation, which is an organization that's focused on providing educational tools for public schools across Canada. So the schools who commit to sharing education that's more honest versus the Eurocentric slanted history are can register to become what is called a legacy school, and they get posted. A link to their school gets posted on the Wendy the Gord Downey Wenjack Foundation website, so that people can see all of the schools who have committed to really trying to build that reconciliation as well. And I know that uh, the Wenjack the Downey Wenjack Foundation is doing a talk this afternoon. Of course, I can't share it because I'm going to be at work, but um, if you Google Downey Wenjack Foundation, you'll see that there's a panel discussion on um, the response to the Pope's visit and his what people are calling an apology. Um, I know that in many respects, what he came across and came over here to do was, um, I mean, he did apologize, um, but his apology really fell short of expectations because there was much more that, that I think Indigenous people wanted him to talk about and say, which he didn't do. Um, he did do an apology, so we have to, I suppose, in a way, credit him for that part. But it wasn't really a true full apology. But that being said, again, if you're interested in hearing the Indigenous perspective on how that went, um, just go to the Downey Wenjack Foundation. Let me just see if I can actually see this. Because I know that they have it for this afternoon. And I know that when I looked at the schedule, it unfortunately was not during a time that I could be there. I don't see it, but here's a link to some of the live events that they are putting on, and for many of these events, and a lot of their events get saved, so that you can actually see them again after. And whenever I have an opportunity, I try to share some of these events when they're coming up, so that you can see them live when they're happening. That way, if there's questions, we can always ask people um, for their response to different things, like their take on the Pope's apology, for example. So that's anyway a link there, a resource for you. And so it looks like Mrs. KR's got a link there too. So what happened last night, as I was saying earlier, with the intergenerational effects of residential schools, and part of the way that uh, they did it is reconnecting to water, reconnecting to the land, because the water, the land, this is kind of uh, a way of us healing ourselves while we heal and make the planet more sustainable as well. So the thing I believe is that if everyone would go back to the roots of indigenous knowledge, and I'm not talking about indigenous just on Turtle Island, but indigenous all over the world. So Australia have Aborigines who were the caretakers of the land there, New Zealand, Mongolia, South Africa, all of these countries, there were indigenous people that were uh, living on the land, surviving, and making it sustainable before colonization. So, if we can get back to the roots of the wisdom of the indigenous peoples all over the world, what we would find is that there is a way of healing Mother Earth and and bring her back to some sort of sustainable state. Because at the moment, if we continue to use and abuse Mother Earth the way that we have, based on you know corporate greed and narrow thinking, then uh, we're going to be our own demise. So this is why people like say Orville Looking Horse, he's a white buffalo pipe carrier from the Lakota Sioux Nation. He has said we have to protect the sacred sites around the world, and we're talking about the Black Hills, we're talking about the rainforests and the coral reefs. All of these places are here and part of the ecosystem that allows the planet to flourish. And if we continue to damage those areas, then again, we are our own worst enemy, and bring about our own demise. So the idea is to try to turn things around and change the attitudes from capitalist colonialism to a more grassroots of rebuilding the relationships with Earth. So that's kind of where we need to go. Anyway, last night, Layla Stats went online and did a live stream with her brother. Um, and his name is Layla Black, sorry. And her brother is Logan Stats, who is a singer and songwriter. So they did an online performance last night. So I'm going to share that. Um, and then maybe if I have time, um, I will share Layla's documentary, because her documentary is pretty short. It's only maybe 24 minutes or so. So I believe I should have time for that. But I'd like to share this because this is the way that Logan and Layla talk, because they're young still. You know, they're 30s, and they're kind of the next generation of people who are trying to educate and push our traditions and teachings on to the next generation. So Layla does these talks at schools all across Turtle Island, and talking about her family history and the dealing of residential schools and how they survived and pulled through. And um, and the, the the documentary is so beautifully shot. And I've shared it before, so some of you who've been here for a while may have seen it, but um, because it's short and it's so beautifully shot, I always like to share this. So I will get the performance started first, so that you can hear a little bit of the music. And so what they write about in their music is kind of coincides with what they want to teach. So they really want to share um, uh, the they want to share the knowledge that they have, that they've been taught from their ancestors. Yes, and this is the thing I think, Carly, is part of why I do the types of streams that I do, is because of people like Dan and Mary Lou Smoke, for example, who I might add, oh, bringing that up, Dan and Mary Lou Smoke have actually just recently been honored with an honorary doctorate of law from the University of Western, which I think is so awesome. Western has also opened up a virtual archive of their work. So they started a radio show called Smoke Signals back in 1990. And so uh, just this year, they opened up an archive where they're digitizing all of the shows So they have volunteers who are listening to each show and transcribing all of the shows so that you can see the transcripts. And so there's a link there. It's a search, excuse me, there's a searchable database there so you can search for different things. And we also had a ceremony honoring uh, that opening of that archive. So which you can also see there. I have shared on file, but you can also see it there as well. Just kind of read the lines because it does have a link there, but I missed it the first time I went there, but it is there. And then their Facebook group. So Smoke Signals Radio, Original Peoples Radio Show has a group on Facebook that you can also follow. So I'd like to congratulate Dan and Mary Lou for that honor because they've been mentors for me for many years now. Since since basically the late 90s, and Dan actually was friends with my father. So he knew my family before I really knew who he was. So that's a connection that shows how small the world is when we bring things around all the time. But And so, coming up on October 13th, Layla Black is actually going to be talking here in London as well at the same university that Chief Cadmus Delorme spoke at. And so that's really cool. And I really want to go and see her. And I've met her once before, but it'll be great to meet her again. And we'll see if we can get that conversation or that speech recorded as well. So let's get back to this music then. So I'm going to get my face off the screen here, and this was recorded last night, and I just came home and saw this uh, basically when I got home from work, and it was already kind of two-thirds of the way through. So I only caught the tail end of it. So this is going to be cool for me to see it right from the beginning now as well. So this is Logan Stats and his sister Layla Black, who are both land defenders and water protectors.
Sego! Sego! Can you hear us? Can you see us? Are we coming in clear now? Sego! Sego Skaragoga! Layla Stats, Young Gats. Anawara niwa gita roden ganyak gehaga niwa got one Jordan oswego nidawageno. Hello? I think we're live now. Sorry about the quick little hiccup there. Just trying to get all of our technology set.
I love technology.
I love technology. We were talking about how this live stream actually reminds us of back in the pandemic.
Back in the pandemic days.
At the very beginning of COVID, remember we were all on quarantine and we wrote that song, that Ride or Die song, like, if you get COVID, then I'm getting COVID. We didn't get COVID though. High five.
Yeah, the whole time.
So welcome everybody to the ANDPVA National Live Stream event. Really super grateful for organizations like this that, help artists and help us get our word out there and share some music and stories. And if you guys stick around till the end, we're going to debut one of my brand new songs with my brother here. So my brother just got back. It's like Blood Harmonies reunited.
Blood Harmonies are reunited.
So you have to tell us, because we're trying to do our own sound here, and we're not really the pros at that. So let us know how it sounds. We're gonna play some oldies, some new ones. We're on the eve of the National Truth and Reconciliation Day, also known as Orange Shirt Day, and we're gonna play some songs about our stories and our journey as survivors.
Found a little lover down in Lindbergh Lane. Like trying to build a fire on the porch. I kept it on the cover, I can feed that flame. When I finally recover, I can love again.
She recalled our mother's bones.
We're made of
sticks and stones.
and the steel will rust, and the concrete cracks, and the walls that all fall down. But my love and trust is firmly
rooted deep within the ground.
It's the story of a warrior.
Put your fists up.
Ain't allowed to feel sorry for. It's the story of a warrior. True love is victorious.
Baby, you're not just kissing me, we're making history. Baby, you're not just kissing me, I said we're making history.
'Cause I found a little lover down here, Landbag Lane. Had to tell my other love, I just don't feel safe. But when you're loving undercover, you can feel so ashamed. When you give it to another, you can break that chain.
She recalled our mother's bone.
We're made up
of sticks and stones,
and the steel will rust, and the concrete cracks, and the walls that all fall down. But my love and trust is firmly
rooted deep within the ground.
It's the story of a warrior. Ain't love to feel sorry for. It's the story of a warrior. True love is victorious.
Baby, you're not just kissing me, we're making history. Baby, you're not just kissing me, I said we're making history.
See,
we got our mother's bones.
We're made of
sticks and stones. And the steel will rust, and the concrete cracks, and the walls that all fall down.
But my love and trust is firmly
rooted deep within the ground.
It's the story of a warrior. Ain't no love to feel sorry for. It's the story of a warrior. True love is victorious.
Yee! Drop a heart for that one. Oh, Gigi's in the house.
Gigi's in the house?
Gigi's in the house. So it's been a while since we've done a live stream. And so thank you to the A&D PVA for putting this on, putting these live events on with artists, Indigenous artists all over Turtle Island.
Shout out Millie Knapp.
Shout out Millie Knapp. And my brother just got back into town yesterday, so I was like, hey.
Just rolled like a tumbleweed back into town. Whatever, just something to lubricate the old...
What, the old whistle? So, Sago, let us know if you guys are watching live, where you're watching from. We're out here on 6NA. Hopefully the Wi-Fi's okay. You never know.
Res Wi-Fi.
Got that Res Wi-Fi live. Hi. Oh, look! It's Grassy Narrows in the house!
Grassy Narrows.
Amazing. Good to see you.
Where'd you get this awesome sweater?
Oh, I got this at Tribal Wear down in the
Tribal
village.
wear in the village, eh?
Everybody's been asking me. They don't have any more, though.
Ah.
All good so far? Rita in the house. She says it sounds
Rita?
good. Holla Rita, holla Rita. So my brother's been on some adventures recently. Just came back from the West Coast. We've both kind of been on, it's interesting because we've both kind of been on these separate pathways for protecting the water and the land. But it always comes back. Always comes back together.
What was
There
in
you go.
there?
It was just a little bug.
Oh, a little bug.
Little bugs. Little bugs don't hurt.
A little bug action.
Fruit flies. Protein. Prince Albert,
Prince
Saskatchewan.
Albert? Okay, let's play a new one.
All right, guys.
For Prince Albert. Oh, it's a place, not a person.
No. Well, he used to be, but we don't care about him. Hi, Mina.
In camouflage eyes, rolled cigarette, sweet taste of freedom, my love on your bed. You were playing songs on that hotel bed. You were taking over that thrift store there. 'Cause we were coming, we were going. The love running from the loin. You can lock me up tomorrow morning. I know you love me when I'm going. Take me back to the river, honey. Take me back to where they never take your loving from me. Take me back to the river, honey. Take me back to where they never take your loving from me. They can never take your loving from me. They won't ever take your loving from me. I got your mugshot in my window. The only photo that I got. Well, you ain't hiding, you ain't shy. You can see your crooked smile in the rebel that's inside you. 'Cause we were coming, we were going. The love's been running from the Lord. They can lock me up tomorrow morning. I know you love me when I'm going. Take me back to the river, honey. Take me back to where they never take your loving from me. Take me back to the river, honey. Take me back to where they never take your loving from me. They can never take your loving from me. They won't ever take your loving from me. 'Cause we were coming, we were going. Love you running from the Lord. They can lock me up tomorrow morning. I know you love me when I'm going.
Yee-hee. Yeah. We got Mom. Mom's tuning in from down the hill.
Mom, just walk up the frickin' hill.
I know,
Holy.
just walk up here. Come on to the
Janice?
Facebook Live. Janice. Comrades out there. Raymond, woo! Okay, welcome guys. So yeah, we're here hanging out for some living room sessions here for ANDPV's national online series. And yeah, we're on the eve of National Truth and Reconciliation Day. And I was out at an event and I thought this was really powerful. They were talking about reconciliation and, you know, an action that they were going to take tomorrow not just wearing an orange shirt, you know, taking it further than just an orange shirt and actually putting action and energy and work into the work that needs to be done for real truth and reconciliation. So I'd love to hear what you guys are doing tomorrow, what you got planned, what your action is going to be. Drop it in the comments. And Mom, you got any requests?
Oh, don't get her started. We'll be here all night. Just joking, Mom.
Only an hour. If that. Tune her up, tune her up.
Got the new strings.
Got the new strings on and suddenly everything's right. I got them new strings on and
Layla, we're gonna get copyright infringed.
out of sight, I got. Sorry.
You can't sing other people's songs with different words.
I thought you could sing 15 seconds of it.
Oh.
I said new strings.
Thanks, Paulo. Don't freaking sue us.
We love you, Paolo. All right, let's play our own songs then.
We could play some Paulo. Simple song, simple man, simple thrift store clothes and a simple plan. He's gonna make it someday. He's gonna make it someday. And that was a lifetime ago. A lifetime ago. A lifetime ago. Lifetime ago. Lifetime ago. Lifetime ago. And you know me, I'm a believer. You know me, I couldn't leave her. You know me, I'm a believer. You know me, I couldn't leave her if I tried. If I tried, no, 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 savage. Ain't no thief gonna take my gold. Ain't no priest gonna save my soul. Ain't no thief gonna take my gold. Ain't no priest gonna save my soul. My soul. My bowl, my bowl. My soul, my soul, my soul, my soul. Ain't no thief gonna take my gold. Ain't no priest gonna save my soul. Ain't no thief gonna take my gold. Ain't no priest gonna save my soul. My soul. My bozo.
Put up the applause emojis. Drop it like it's hot.
Drop those things like they're hot. Who's up there?
Who's out there in internet land?
It's just Mom and Gigi.
Our mom and our auntie.
Just our mom and our auntie. And our other aunties all around the world.
Other aunties. Aunties, please unite. Oh.
Aunties are us. So if you guys stick around, we're going to be playing one of my new songs at the end of the set. So don't go anywhere. Keep it on this channel. Don't skip the commercials either, because that's where the magic happens.
Can I do a plug?
Yeah, let's plug.
I'm plugging something. Tomorrow night at...
Not tomorrow. Sunday. Are you plugging Sunday?
The 30th?
No, the 2nd.
No, I'm plugging tomorrow night because I'm going to be on TV.
Oh, you're on TV?
I'm going to be on TV tomorrow. I'm playing the Star Walker Buffy St. Marie special. Live from the NAC. Me, William Prince, Tribe Called Red. So many, Leela Gilday. So many amazing artists are going to be covering Buffy songs tomorrow. And you can watch that on
What channel?
APTN and CBC Gem. Tomorrow.
Put it in your, what is it called?
It's called Star Walker.
Star Walker.
A tribute to Buffy St. Marie.
Oh, we love Buffy. If you love Buffy, drop a heart in the comments.
This is me dropping millions of hearts.
Buffy, Buffy, Buffy.
Buffy the Colonizer Slayer.
So when we got arrested, Buffy said she was at breakfast with and she found out the news. And as soon as she found out that we were arrested, she was like on the phone, "Get them out, whatever they need.
Bail them out."
Bail them out.
So Buffy's our get out of jail free card. So take that.
We ever
SMP.
need bail money.
What are we doing?
I don't know.
Okay. And I know you're listening from the driver's seat of that old Ford. And I know you miss me. Your pride must be so. She's wearing an outfit from her mother's store. She's living a life that her heart can afford. And I know that I'm right, but I hope that I'm wrong. She'll never love me, but she'll always love my songs. And I know that I'm right, but I hope that I'm wrong. She'll never love me, but she'll always love my songs, my song. My song. In my song. My lonely song. And I got my fist up, but I don't wanna fight, no. And I can't find my days, love. I've been searching all night. And she just wants a folk song, not anything more. And she just wants a folk song, one she can adore. And I know that I'm right, but I hope that I'm wrong. She'll never love me, but she'll always love my songs. And I know that I'm right, but I hope that I'm wrong. She'll never love me, but she'll always love my songs, my song. My song. In my song. My lonely soul. And I know that I'm right, but I hope that I'm wrong. She'll never love me, but she'll always love my songs. And I know that I'm right, hope that I'm wrong.
She'll never love me, but she'll always love my songs. And I know, yes I know, and I know, and I know, ha! And I know. And I know. And I know that I'm right. Hope that I'm wrong. She'll never love me, but she'll always love my songs. Almost did it, eh? You were like, is he gonna do it?
I always want you to do it. Inside joke.
Shoot. No,
Oh.
that's inappropriate to share that in. That's not a joke.
No, we can't do that. Stephanie, hey, say go Steph. Been a while. New York in the house. And then we'll have all those people that are watching the replay. So if you're in the replay land, put hashtag replay so we can love it on you. So
You're in replay land.
yeah, thank you for hanging out with us for the ANDPVA. So it is Antipova.
Ampova.
It's really a tongue twister. Antipova.
Antipova.
ANDPVA.
Antipova.
Anyways, they've been doing these awesome live streams for Indigenous artists, and tonight you get to hang out with us in my living room. Pretty sweet. Sing some songs. Any requests out there?
I'm not wearing any pants right now. Just kidding. I'm wearing
That'd
pants.
be weird. Comfy pants. That's the thing about these live streams. You can wear comfy pants. You don't gotta wear tight jeans.
How funny would it be to do like a live stream and do it like all serious and just like really serious and like all deep, and then at the end
then
just
just,
like
like,
stand
walk
up with
up
Oh,
like
and,
really
like, no
funny
pants.
underwear on?
Top goes
That would be some freaking. Then all the aunties would be going.
and the aunties go wild. Oh, so yeah, Logan's gonna be on TV tomorrow night, and we're also gonna be playing a show on Sunday at the Mule Spinner out in Hamilton.
Yes.
So come on out to that. 'Cause
I haven't got to play at home in so long.
it's like a welcome home show.
And now I get to play at home.
Full band's gonna be out. We got
Full band and a new member of the band.
a brand new band member.
A new member of the band.
Oh, how mysterious!
And some new songs. And Glenn Marshall's going to be on sound, so it's going to sound awesome.
Land back in. Yep, we're just laying back in here.
This one's for Rita, Aunt Lisa, Raymond, Skylar, and Michelle. Oh, Stuff? Stuff's name's Raymond?
Yeah.
Just rad young Stuff.
We didn't know that.
This one's for you, Ray. Dig up my bowl. You carry my body home. And I'll buy back my soul with the gold that I'm owed. 'Cause I've been a dead man, just walking away. 'Cause I've been a dead man, just walking away. Give me back my love. And I think she's had enough. And give me back my love. And I think she's had enough.
So have I.
That's cool. get your fill. You fill up your fill. You better put down those pills. For she heads for the hills. 'Cause I've been a dead man, just walking away. 'Cause I've been a dead man, walking away. Give me back my love. And I think she's had enough. And give me back my love. I think she's had enough.
So have I. I think that's Mom's favorite part. She's like, so have I.
'Cause I've been a dead man. I've been walking away. 'Cause I've been a dead man, walking away. Give me back my love. And I think she's had enough. And give me back my love. And I think she's had enough.
So have I.
So have I. And so have I.
Okay, I have to quickly just take pee break.
What the heck?
I'm just gonna leave
This is your live stream. Holy sister. Well, how you guys doing? So, my name's Logan. I play music. What do you mean? You're a pro, Logan. You've done this before. Don't act like you've done this a billion freaking times. One schmillion. What? You got coffee this whole time? Ooh. Not sponsored by.
Not sponsored by Timbies. Nice to meet you.
We don't say that word around here, Layla. Tim.
Not in the mirror, in the dark. Inside jokes here tonight on the live stream. Welcome to the AND PVA live stream.
Starring comedy by.
Did you guys know we're actually comedians as well? We're pretty funny.
What's a freaking funny song that you can play?
Oh
no. Nope. It's swearing.
Tuesday afternoon?
The W word's in there.
Oh, yeah.
You don't even know what that is, do you?
So is the S word.
Okay. On another note.
PG.
On a more pleasant, fatherly note.
Thought you were Stallone. Gigi thought you were Stallone. So Logan's nickname when he was little was Stallone.
Do you know that I actually met a person named Stallone?
Yeah, we know Stallone up in Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay.
This one's for any babies that are out there. If there's any little babies listening.
There's a few.
I've got an angel. She doesn't wear any wings. She wears a heart that could melt my old smile, make me wanna sing. She gives me presents with a present alone. She gives me everything I could wish for. Kisses on the lips just for coming, just for coming. Your mama makes angels. I've seen it with my own eyes. You gotta be careful when you got good love, 'cause angels just keep on multiplying. And I'm so busy changing the world. One smile could change all of mine. We share the same soul. Share the same soul.
Beautiful War is requested.
What? That's such a freaking hard one to sing.
You don't even know. They just think that you can.
I gotta do that whole. Okay, maybe I can do it.
Okay. This is for you, Sonia.
Sonia?
Yeah, that's where I got Luna. Luna was a kitty cat from Sonia's smoke shop down Res.
Ooh.
Thank you, Sonia, for that kitty cat. She's still here.
Thank you for the kitty cat, Sonia.
Res cats. Those, they got their.
I got res cats. They're
way.
multiplying. What are we singing?
Beautiful War.
Holy moly! You're getting the good stuff here.
Alaska Wellness Tour. Oh yeah, David, hook us up. We want to go to Alaska.
Dude, I love Alaska. I ain't never been there, but I like going to new places, especially
I
cold
see some
places.
Northern Lights. It's on my bucket list of things I need to do before I die. Okay.
Bite your tongue. Don't make a scene, dear. Everybody's been here at least once before, but we've been here more. In your heart and brain, it rolls down the window, and I've seen it all go, and come back around. I've heard that saying. Yeah. It's the tip of your tongue, the top of your lungs, it's making me crazy. And I said, love it, it don't mean nothing unless there's something worth fighting for. It's such a beautiful world. Me, I said, love it, don't mean nothing unless there's something worth fighting for. That's so hard. Now when I hold warmth of your body. And there is nobody that I'd rather hold. Shot up and go. It's the tip of your bum. The top of your lungs. It's making me crazy.
That bum tip.
And yeah, I said, love, it don't mean nothing unless there's something worth fighting for. Such a beautiful world. And yeah, I said, love, it don't mean nothing unless there's something worth fighting for.
Fight for it.
Live streams are fun.
They are.
We're having a fun time.
We're having some fun. Some fun.
There you
Some
go,
fun, some fun, some
Sonia.
fun. There you go, Sonia. That was for you.
That one was for you.
One
Landbackers.
for the Landbackers.
Oh man.
You spread like cancer through the lane. Can't wash red blood off a white man's hand.
I'm playing too expensive of a guitar right
Bit
now.
aggressive.
Like 500 years of angst and
Colonization. In one song.
but we could end off with that one maybe.
What about Alongside Demise?
Whoa, bringing it back.
So this is like one of the first songs Logan wrote, and he was 16. I think you were 16, and you had just broken up. Somebody broke your heart, and you came to my house, and you ran away. Came to my house in Hamilton, and I remember you sitting on the edge of the bed playing this song for me when you were 16 years old.
Just a little guy.
And
Just
it
a
still
little-
rocks.
A coldest day in the evening. I can't keep walking without you. Help me. Your ghost is my weakness. My lips crave your sweet hair. I locked up out your photograph. I locked up out your nose. But Sam's birthday on the other side of the line. Walk alone alongside the mine. Alongside the mine.
Alongside Demise.
Without them, it's a painful contradiction. To search for truth when you're maximizing fiction. And Mama said, I've been smoking too many cigarettes. Well, don't you fret,
It helps me to forget.
'cause every night
All comes back to me.
pain and regret.
Take one more crack at me. Just keep falling.
I just keep falling, and just keep falling, babe.
Just keep falling.
I just keep falling.
demise.
What a sad little 16-year-old I
I
was.
know,
eh?
that was a really sad 16-year-old song. Good though. Indian blues. How long are we going to be live? We got like 10 minutes left. But at the very end, we're going to sing one of my new songs, which we've been working on, which is cool. I think we're done pretty soon, pretty shortly. We're going to be wrapping up here. But while we're on live, thank you so much. While we're here, we are on the eve of National Truth and Reconciliation Day. And, you know, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of orange shirts tomorrow. But I really want to encourage you just to take that extra step and realize it's not just about a shirt. You know, the shirt has meaning, and the shirt has a lesson in itself. But it's taking that action, you know, going out there and standing in solidarity, learning, understanding, listening. I think there should be a lot of listening. I think there's CBC's doing like a day of listening where they're playing survivor stories all day. Yeah. And then Logan's going to be on TV tomorrow on APTN tomorrow night for the Star Walker documentary with Buffy. So don't miss that.
It's so epic. I played a lot of shows in my days, and I'm telling you, National Arts Center, they had all these holograms of Buffy behind me. She was changing. It was going from like young Buffy to old Buffy. And she was singing behind me, and then putting all these words behind everyone. It was so awesome. Then Tribe Called Red came, and everybody got all sweaty. And I got to sit beside Buffy.
Sweaty?
Yeah. I sweated on Buffy.
She took some of your DNA.
No, it was really awesome. It was really awesome. We got some time to actually spend together and talk about, you know, my career and her career and some of the really cool stuff that's going on. She's got a new documentary out called Up Where We Belong. Check it out.
You're in that too, aren't you?
Yep, I say a whole sentence in it. Right after, Taj Mahal. It's like Taj Mahal's like, yeah, Buffy's the best. Yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, Taj.
Yeah, Taj.
She's the best.
I didn't know.
All
right.
Oh, dang it.
Let's do one more. Yeah. This is for the Landbackers.
You spread like cancer through the leg. Can't wash red blood off a white man's head. No, you can't. Try to make your people understand. That's why they call it home and native land. Home and native land.
Give it all back, give it all back, Justin.
You take it
away, take it away, give it all back, give it all back, Justin.
You take it away,
You take it away.
and don't you take it away. 6 miles each side of the river. 6 miles each side of the river, sending shivers down your spine. I'm just asking for what's mine. 6 miles each side of the river. 6 miles each side of the river.
6 miles each side of the river, of the river, of the river.
Picture a whole band like.
Put your sixes up.
Here comes the rain, and it's made from our grandmother's tears.
They watch the water.
They watch the water disappear.
Here comes the rain.
And it's made from our grandmother's tears.
They watch the water.
They watch the daughters
disappear. Give it all back, give it all back, Justin. You take it away, take it away, give it all back, give it all back, Justin.
You take it away,
Take it away.
and don't you take it away. And 6 miles each side of the river. 6 miles each side of the river, and it shivers down your spine. I'm just asking for what's mine. Yeah. 6 miles each side of the river. 6 miles each side of the river. 6 miles each side of the river. You're the river, you're the river. Are you guys ready for Layla's new awesome song?
I don't know if I'm ready. You ready for it?
It's awesome.
It's fine. This is my debut.
No, just wait until you frickin' guys hear the record that Layla's about to make. Just wait.
I'm working on it.
When it comes out, I'm retiring.
Okay. So thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with us for a whole hour. That flew by.
I'm having fun, sis.
I know. We got like a whole weekend of playing shows. It's pretty fun. We're going to Algonquin. Are we going to Algonquin tomorrow?
Is that where we're going?
It's near Algonquin.
I don't even know where I go.
Some Rapids place, then Hamilton. You're going to be on TV.
Yeah.
This is a busy weekend. And then tomorrow, sporting National Truth and Reconciliation Day. And
So get your orange shirts.
yeah.
Take it a step further, get some orange socks.
And my your whole body, just paint your whole body orange. My friend Susie Miller says Orange Shirt Day is not just a day, but it is a way. And so, think about how far have you come since the first Orange Shirt Day? What changes have you made in your life, and how have you grown? How have you worked towards real reconciliation? What have you done?
Ser de Paulo. Dipset. Linda.
The puddles in the house. All right, you made it just in time for my my new song. So I've been working on this song. It was a birthday present for somebody special. I'll give you a guess.
It's such a cute little song. Wait till you guys.
Drop your hearts. Orange
It's gonna melt
hearts.
your heart.
I just want you to flood it with orange hearts.
Never known a love like this. Never felt lightning from a kiss. Shaking my boots down on my roots, no doubt in my mind just what this is. Never known a love like this. And you, my fire, take my hand and let me know that through the war you won't let go. Fell in love with a warrior, warrior. Fell in love with a warrior, warrior. I fell in love, I fell in love, I fell in love with a warrior. Never known a strength like this. Never surrendered to the bliss. Weak in the knees, begging you please, giving it everything I got. Never known a strength like this. And you take me higher. You fuel my fire. Take my hand and let me know that through the war you won't let go. Fell in love with a warrior, warrior. Fell in love with a warrior, warrior. Fell in love, fell in love. I fell in love with a warrior. And I'll be your soldier, show to fell in love, fell in love, fell in love with a warrior. Oh, look, I just opened my eyes to all those orange hearts. That was so cute. Aw, orange heart, guys. I love you guys. All right. So in Mohawk, we don't got a word for goodbye. We just say, we'll see you soon. And we say, onagawahi. So onagawahi. Love you guys. And make sure you tag us. Show us how you are repping your orange tomorrow. We all wear orange hashtags. And hashtag we wear orange.
Can we take the elevator out of here?
Yeah, we're going to take the elevator and exit. Boop.
Sigali swagwag, Galakindi Neo Gets, Wagisli Wagi, Niwa Kitaloda, Onida, Ngwehuenege, Ani Bojo, Danse, Okinapi. And for those of you who just got here, kind of talk about what we've been talking about today is what is now known as National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. So in Canada, that's what it's called, and it's now a it's a national day, which has been left up to the provinces to decide whether or not they want to officially recognize it. Not all provinces actually do. Um, well, they recognize it, but they don't offer it as a day, um, a paid day for employees in all provinces. Now, that being said, um, it's not a day off work. That's not what that's not what Orange Shirt Day was ever intended to be, is a day off work. It's not intended for people to delve into capitalism that was brought to Turtle Island through the colonialism and go on a spending spree and shopping because they have the day off. It's meant for us to take a moment to reflect the history of this country, which coincides with the history of the United States boarding school system. Also, in Australia, um, I think they called them community schools or something to that effect. New Zealand, South Africa, Mongolia. So North Turtle Island is not the only place that this has happened. However, uh, part of the thing with Canada is that Canada has this, um, I guess, this image of being a multicultural, um, welcoming, warm, fuzzy country to be part of. And to a certain point, it can be, um, but it has not been to the Indigenous people of Canada. And because colonialism that has started back from, from Sir John A. Macdonald days to today, even as Layla Black and Logan Stats, who were in that performance, along with Layla's partner, Skylar Williams, are all Mohawk activists from the Six Nations of Grand River. So they've been trying to defend the land and um, uh, get the land put back into the control of the Six Nations people that is under the treaty. So there was a treaty that was signed um, by the monarchy, and what it did is it promised 6 miles on either side of the Grand River to be uh, reserved and under the power of the Six Nations people. Over the years, however, the colonial government has leased out parts of that land, have uh, rented out parts of the land, allowed business to develop on the land, And the Six Nations people have decided that, they've had enough of this being stepped on and feel like they should be standing up and reclaiming that land, which is what they call land back. 1492 Land Back Lane is all about that fight to reclaim that land that is theirs under treaty. So it's not like we're, we're asking for the country to be handed back to us. We're asking for the lands that we had made agreements with because, you know, uh, ultimately, as many say, when the colonizers came here, they didn't come here with any land. They came here taking over land, which is what the whole doctrine of discovery is about. And why, when the Pope did the apology this last summer, if any of you saw it, people felt that it was a bit of a half-ass apology because although he apologized for the atrocities that some members of his church did, um, he stopped short of the church taking responsibility for maintaining control over its employees. He stopped short of mentioning the doctrine of discovery, um, or of the often the rapes of young girls in the residential schools, some of who became pregnant and whose babies were taken away from them and incinerated in fires in these very same schools, um, and then, or they were killed in some extreme instances. Babies were pushed into the walls of the schools and hidden behind the walls. It is really a horrific um, history. Yet most people don't see Canada in that light. And so until May of 2021, when the first uh, burials were being exposed on Kamloops residential school property, people denied a lot of this history. And now that kind of the dam has broken, it's hard to deny history, the real history. So that's what's coming out now. And people are talking about more and more, and there's documentaries being done more and more. Some of them on specific schools, some of them on just the whole overall history of residential schools. So this is kind of what this day is about: is reflecting on that history and discussing it and sharing the awareness so that people understand. Because I know that when the a lot of the mass see the news and all they hear about are indigenous peoples gathering for another protest and etc. That they may not understand why, and unless it's kind of broken down and explained, and they learn about the real history, and that's kind of what this part of this day is all about, is showing that history. And I think that it should go beyond today. My stream, I share information about this stuff all year round because it's one day a year is not going to create reconciliation. It has to be an ongoing. It has to be an ongoing project. That's it took us 500 years to get to this stage. It's probably going to take us 500 years to get back to some sort of normalcy and cohesive collaboration between nations. And that's what we ultimately we want to do. And we always want to think, from my teachings, is that we always want to think 7 generations ahead, right? So what is the seventh generation going to be dealing with by the time they're here? And are they going to still be dealing with the same amount of colonial racism and systemic problems that we're running into today? Or will we have at least kind of moved our feet forward and and creating some sort of unity? So that's the good question, and that's the question that comes up and arises today. And what are we doing as individuals um, to help contribute to the reconciliation. Hey, Yanko, for coming in. Um, Now, I'm not 100% how I pronounce that. I'm guessing Sensha, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. So what I'm doing today is I shared some stuff. Now I'm going to keep the VOD up for as long as I can. Uh, I have to go to work this afternoon, so I have to kind of break this up a little bit. But what I'm ultimately going to do is I'm going to go back. I'm going to come back. I'll be back online again tonight, probably around 8 o'clock or so, where I'll continue to share. So what I'm going to do for this stream right now is, because we just watched Layla and Logan do their performance, I'm going to share the documentary that Layla recently did. It's called Blood and Water, and it talks about how her family dealt with the residential intergenerational effects of the residential schools, because her grandmother was or grandfather was in the residential school. And so it's going to be how they survived the residential school, and how they did it was through connecting to the water and connecting back to the land, and healing in that way. And then after I share that documentary, then again I'll share their new version of the Peaceful Warrior, which has not been seen by anybody yet except for me, um, done by the Waxbirds, um, who are a couple that are living in New Zealand. They're a UK couple living in New Zealand, and they just sent me their version of the Peaceful Warrior recently, and I love the fact that they did it, and I'm honored every time that somebody does a rendition of this song, because it shows kind of what the whole Peaceful Warrior project, it was really about showing that each of us have the ability to be a warrior should we decide to stand up for whatever we feel strongly about. And so let me get this documentary started. And then after the documentary, I'll play that video. So whoever's here will be seeing it for the very first time, and you'll get the first look at this new video, or this new version, and hear this new version of the Peaceful Warrior. We'll raid out, and then hopefully I'll see some of you back again at 8 o'clock tonight if you're around. Um, so in the meantime, let me get my face off the screen here then. And this documentary, I believe, is shot so beautifully, and I think that Layla Black is such a positive person, and she does talks around all across Turtle Island at schools, and about educating people on our history, but she does it in a positive way, in the sense of, okay, this is what we know happened. What do we need to do to correct it for the future? Because when we talk about history, history is not necessarily just things in the past, but history is today, because what we do today is going to be tomorrow's history. So every day really is a history. It's upon us now, today, to decide how we want to create the history for tomorrow. So this is the documentary done by filmmaker and land protector is by Layla Black.
Ahodan Gariwadegwa, the words before all else. I was told by people in the filmmaking industry that I shouldn't start the documentary with the Thanksgiving address. It can take up to 20 minutes to thank all elements of creation. And it's all in Mohawk, so you can't understand any of it. Most people don't speak Mohawk. I was told you'll lose them. They won't watch it. And for me, that was exactly why we had to start this film with the Ahoda Gariwadegwa. I remember the first time I heard the Thanksgiving address, I had no idea what they were saying. I was at a conference sitting there, an elder walked to the front of the room and started speaking. And even though I couldn't understand it, I knew it was significant. I knew it was important. I felt it in my bones, in my blood. But when I looked around, I saw people on their phones, checking out, getting bored and impatient. And it became very clear to me that this is part of the problem in our society. We're in this microwave society where we want everything now. We want it so bad that we can't even take the time to acknowledge the gratitude and the thankfulness for the things that we have that keep us alive. So as you listen to the Ahoda Gariwadegwa, I really want you to, even though you don't understand what they're saying, I really want you to connect with the feeling of gratitude and giving that thanks for all of these things and listening with a good mind.
Daye tina warado ne ungwai sua. Ito gari na yo tuhage ne ngwa niguna. Daye tina warado na eti nistaha johwanjade. Ito gari na yo tuhage ne ngwa niguna. Daye tina warado ne gahniga sua. Ito gari na yo tuhage ne ngwa niguna. Daye tina warado ne gunjo sua. Da eto na yotoge na ngwa nigura. Da etina wanado na yotunduni. Da eto na yotoge na ngwa nigura. Da etina wanado na ono kwa sua. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa nigura. Da etina wanado na asa nigunda de kohogua. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa nigura. Da etina warado ne wahyaniota. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado ne gundirio. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado ne garunda sua. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado ne zita ogua. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na gayeri ni gawarage. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na eti sotogo radiweras. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da tsidawa no warado na tsidawa zia anje kene garakwa. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na eti sota asta neka garakwa. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na yoji stoh kwadonyo. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na diunkiadado. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da tsidawa no warado na sungwaya dizu. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da eto.
Sego Skanagoa. Layla Black Youngyats, Anuwari, Niwagi, Daroden, Ganyakehaga, Niwago, Wandroden, Oswego, Nidawageno. Hello, my name is Layla Black. I'm Mohawk Turtle Clan from Six Nations. Mohawk Turtle Clan. But I never really knew what that meant. My Riga'o and Kega'o are generational survivors of the residential school. It was only recently when we made this decision to reclaim our Haudenosaunee identity, our language, our culture, that we started to become aware of just how impacted we had been
from this ongoing trauma of residential schools. And as we begin to understand what we didn't know, it also became apparent that some things we didn't need to learn. We didn't have to be taught these things because they were in our blood all along. And one of those lessons was our connection to the water. It's literally in our blood. And one of the first things that I learned along this journey was the importance of the Thanksgiving address, the Ahodan Gariwadegwa, the words before all else. No ceremony, no gathering, nothing of significance would begin without these words. Uniting our minds, all as one, to give thanks. And the waters are just one of the elements recognized in this address. Onega Shon'a, the waters. We give thanks to the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms. Waterfalls, rain, mist, streams, rivers, and oceans. Water connects us. Without it, we die. With one mind, we give thanks to the spirit of the water. Now, our minds are one. As I share my Papa's story with you, I want you to think about your own connection to water. Feel it flow within you. Feel it pulse in your veins, in your blood. So let's go back to where my relationship with water first started. Gord Staats, the son of Ernest and Susan Staats, the grandson of Christine Staats. My middle name is Christine, after her. Christine was a student at the Mohawk Institute Residential School. I never knew her, but I feel like I still carry her with me. And one of the things I definitely feel is the trauma. I remember stories of her being passed down, of her escaping from the windows and scaling the walls just to get away. Instead of passing down a gift of culture and language and this beautiful tradition to her children and her grandchildren, like the Creator intended, she passed down a coat of shame. She literally had the Indian beat out of her, and that trauma trickled down through our family. The love that one gets from a parent, Christine never had, never learned how to experience, how to share it. Imagine that. As a child, never feeling love, never experiencing love. And that pattern continues through generations. My Papa's childhood was cold and hard. Because of that residential school, he didn't know his language. He didn't know his culture. He didn't know anything that I'm about to share with you here in this video. And I always saw him as kind of afraid of it. He would tell us not to use our last name on our resume because we wouldn't get the job. He would tell us not to tell people that we were Native, not to go to the reserve because it was dangerous. He cast that coat of shame down to us, his grandchildren. We were Mohawk Turtle Clan, but that was all we knew, and we didn't even know what that meant. And like a lot of families dealing with this intergenerational trauma, alcoholism, violence, depression, trauma sprinkled throughout my family. It spread like a virus you couldn't get rid of. And only when my brother and sister and I started to learn our Haudenosaunee culture did we start to recognize this dark spot that had been living inside of us. And as I started to learn about the history of my family, the history of what happened to hundreds of thousands of these Indigenous children, what happened to Christine, I started to understand those feelings of not belonging. I started to understand that pain and anger I was carrying around. And I really started to get it. And thus started my healing journey. My Papa may have never taught me the Ahodan Gariwadegwa. He didn't show me the ceremonies. He didn't show me the history of the Ginyakehaga. But one thing he did teach me was the relationship and responsibility that I had to water. As I look back now, I see residential schools. They may have cut their hair off. They may have taken their names and give them numbers, taken their language. But even through that coat of shame, my papa felt the water. It was alive to him. It was alive inside of him. And he passed that on to me. Nyawagoa, Gord. Every morning he'd wake up at dawn and he would walk this land. He dug these ponds on this land so that future generations of his family would always have access to water. He spoke at conferences in our nation's capital about how these ponds could help Indigenous communities that didn't have access to water. He dug ponds for other people in the community. Water is in our blood, and I come to these spots to see through all of that trauma that was passed down to me and heal with the water. We all have different connections with the water. Different, yet the same.
To me, the water is almost like a physical manifestation of spirit. You can see spirit flowing down beside you.
For me, whenever I'm feeling, down or lost, or I just have a question, I just go and I sit by the water and I just listen, and it all comes and it all just feels right.
I grew up on an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and when I left, I remember dreaming about it. And I still dream about it decades later, because the water that I grew up around was also in my blood.
Water is what makes up most of your body. So it's outside of you and it's alive and well, just like your body is. So you can literally see the spirit in the water as it's flowing.
The Grand River has been an integral part of the Haudenosaunee life. The city of Brantford and surrounding areas is on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, and the Attawatam people. And the work we do, the activism, the learning, it will never be complete unless we acknowledge and remind ourselves and others that colonization is not just a thing of the past. We must acknowledge settlers have access to this land because of colonial violence. The Haldimand Treaty guaranteed the exclusive use of 950,000 acres, 6 miles along each side of the Grand River, to the Haudenosaunee people, to the members of Six Nations. To this day, through the process of colonialism, racism, genocide, settlers have secured 902,000 acres, leaving 48,000 acres for Six Nations. So we have to acknowledge the resilience of these Six Nations communities that have lived, loved, and resisted here forever. We acknowledge the resilience of this land. We acknowledge our role in decolonizing the mindset of the land we all call home now. And after all these broken treaties and stolen lands, still more than 50% of homes on Six Nations are running without running water. But who has the rights to these waters? The Haudenosaunee speak in terms of responsibility, respect to the water, not in terms of water rights. The law of the land is not of police and government, but it's a higher law. The original instructions, Ahodan Gariwadegwa. The Creator gave us this task as humans to recite the Thanksgiving address, which is a constant reminder of the early law of the land, to first give thanks. We believe that at one time all creatures, all living things could communicate, talk to each other, even the water. Today, the water's lost its ability, lost its voice, and it's the responsibility of the Haudenosaunee to uphold the voice of the water. It was passed down to us. So being the voice of the water, much different than owning it or having a right to it. What happens if we don't have enough water? What happens if we poison our water? What does our world look like? My papa may have never learned the traditional beliefs of his ancestors. He never learned the Thanksgiving address. He never went to Longhouse, and he never spoke a single Mohawk word.
He didn't really have
a connection to his culture. But without knowing it, he was like one of the most Indigenous men that I knew. The knowledge that he carried, how to create these ponds, how to create clean ecosystems and habitats for all our creatures out here, how to really, really, cultivate the water and make it safe to drink. It's just so amazing to kind of watch him do these super Indigenous things without really knowing who he was.
He may have been ashamed and afraid of who he was because of colonization. But it's not too late for us. It was those walks along the water's edge where I first remember truly feeling connected. Connected to the bigger picture, connected to nature, connected to life and to Mother Earth. I remember understanding at a very early age I had to take care of the water. And now I'm understanding that it's my responsibility to be the voice of the water, which is why I wanted to make this film. I wanted to share his story and other stories. I get to sing with the water, to the water, for the water. Water is life. It holds energy and it's alive. One of the other lessons I learned as I started to reclaim my culture was the two-row wampum.
My name is Susie Miller. I am a teacher at Emily C. General Elementary School at Six Nations. Our ancestors knew how to live in relationship because they lived in relationship for thousands of years. So the two-row is the first treaty that was made outside of Indigenous nations from Turtle Island. One purple row represents the ship of those that came across the water. The other row represents the canoe of our ancestors traveling the waters. What those two rows do is they travel parallel down the river of life, side by side, without interfering. In this row in the ship, thinking and way of life tends to be linear. It's always progressing. In the canoe way of understanding, it's like a circle, it's a cycle, and everything is connected. This treaty, when it was made, it's a promise, and there was no end point because they said that as long as the grasses grow and the rivers flow, this treaty will be in existence, and it still exists today. How we are to be living in relationship with each other.
Residential schools may have taken our languages. They may have taken our culture and our access to knowledge and ancestral wisdom. They may have caused trauma and pain that is still being felt today. But through all that, they could not take away my papa's connection to the water. It was inside of him all along, just like it's inside of you. Thank you for spending this time with me and my papa and the water and my family. Water is life. Yongana longwa onega. Onegawahi. Gunalongkwa.
This is for my bloodline, all my natives on the front line. Keep your money in your pipeline, cause nobody in their right mind. This is for my sisters, they were stolen and they're missing. And this is for my grandmother, and this is for your grandmother. Hit him with the water song, up G, yo.
Shigoli, Swagway. Shigoli Swagway, I hope you enjoyed that. Layla Black is, again, always trying to teach in such a positive way. And I think that that's kind of where I want to keep things in my stream is I want this to be a safe place where people can come and ask questions and have discussions and still learn about a darker history that happens here on Turtle Island. So that's kind of why Dan and Mary Lou, who are kind of like mentors to me, have done the job that they do for 30 odd years. Um, so again, if you are interested in the some articles that have been written about our history and about issues and things like that, Dan and Mary Lou have an archive that they've collected over the last 30 plus years relating to Indigenous people of North America. They've been doing educating and awareness and ceremony and teaching traditions uh, for at least that long. And so I am so honored to be able to call them friends. I love the fact that they have um, their their knowledge and wisdom and are so generous with their time to share on my stream when they come in. So though obviously they'll be back at some point. Again, they just recently got an honorary doctorate of law from the Western University here in southwestern Ontario for all of their ongoing anthropologic work. And so for that, I congratulate them. And we had a ceremony relating to the opening of um, their archive, their digital archive. So that's accessible anywhere people can access the internet. And so there's audio clips of their entire some of their shows in their entirety, which have been transcribed as well. So there's a lot of resources there, and it's going to grow because um, they've initially opened this up because they wanted people to have access to the work that they've done so far. But there's more coming in. Not all of, I mean, it's 30, 30 odd years of shows. So there's going to be more added to that on kind of an ongoing basis. So there's a link there for the archive, and there's a link there to follow Dan and Mary Lou on Facebook if you want to keep in touch through their uh, Smoke Signals Original People's Radio Show group on Facebook. So that's great. So what I'm going to do now is, again, because I got to get ready to go to work soon, I'm going to show you guys a version of the Peaceful Warrior that has not been shown anywhere yet. And so for those of you who don't know what that is, I'll put a little blurb there in the chat so you can see. This is a project that I have felt so honored that people have taken on the challenge. When I initially thought about this project, well, when I initially thought of the song, because I wrote this back in 2002, 2003, I recorded it and released it in 2004, and then it got thrown into the archives for a long time. And so uh, to have access to it and bring it back, I contemplated whether I wanted to re-record it and um, and do something with it. And I thought, well, I'm not really a singer and I'm not really a very good rapper. So uh, I asked other streamers, a couple of streamer friends, if they would consider it. And they they jumped on it. And so the very first one was like Kanosh from the UK, who's an awesome support of the channel. So that's awesome to get him on board. And then it just kind of snowballed. So people like Carly Sings, the Andy and Adele, um, the Neo Kalalams, KR Acoustic, um, all of these people have come on board and done this project and their own renditions of the song. So today I'm going to be sharing a version of the song that was done by the latest version of it, done by a couple who call them Joe and Pete, call themselves the Waxbirds. They're based in New Zealand, but they're actually from the UK. And I've just recently discovered them a few weeks ago, and I thought, hey, they're really a sweet couple. And then um, I I asked them if they would be up for it, and they as well. They said it was an awesome project and jumped on it. And so they just sent me this uh, their rendition of this song a few days ago, and so I'm going to now show it to you guys for the very first time. And while I'm showing you this, I'm going to set up the raid call and look for someone to raid. Excuse me. If you have any suggestions, go ahead and throw it in the chat. But in the meantime, let me get my face off the screen again, and I will show you the Peaceful Warrior as done by the Waxbirds.
Hi, we're the Waxbirds. This is our rendition of Peaceful Warrior. We are the birds and we stand for peace, and we long for every war to cease. So what are we doing here? What do we have to say? This world has got to change. I'm gonna fight for the ones that cannot fight. Oh, the creatures from the water to the skies. Separate the truth and the lies. We're gonna make our stand. So lift your voices loud. We can rule the world alone. Stand against the crowds. Let us heal our home. Women cut their hair in the streets, while evil sits in powerful seats. Rich men hide behind their hollow cross. Every war brings loss. Lift your voices loud. We can rule the world alone. Stand against the crowds. Let us heal our home. We can find inspiration for the future, a way to heal the world with metaphorical suture. We are the birds and we stand for peace. Only through love can every war cease.
That's awesome. So I want to real quickly, because I already started this raid thing, want to say a big yanko to Devog. 15 months now. One of the founders of my channel. Been here since day one. I appreciate all the support. David Slade modding for me today. I appreciate you. And subbing again. Thirsty Mosquito gifting a sub to Roman Rue.